Some of the most popular arguments within Christian apologetics come from author C.S. Lewis, who is most known for writing the Narnia books, which are beloved by children and adults of all ages for their fantastical escapism and their themes of love, sacrifice, and faith. He is also well known for other books, both fiction and nonfiction, that appeal to Christian sensibilities. For example, the Screwtape Letters, which I read in my 11th grade Bible class, involve a correspondence between two demons over a human that they wish to corrupt. However, his most widely read book in Christian apologetic circles is probably Mere Christianity. In Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis made the argument that there were only three options in determining the true identity of Jesus and whether he could be considered a good and moral teacher after claiming divinity. He was either a liar, thus immoral for spreading falsehood, a lunatic, thus worthy of pity and dismissal for being out of his mind, or exactly who the gospel said he was, the Lord of Lords, to whom we should fall on our knees in adoration and worship. It is an incredibly convincing argument if you are a Christian looking for the means to defend and reinforce your faith, as I was in my teenage years. However, Lewis, as brilliant as he was in many ways, makes a key logical fallacy in his assessment of the situation. It stops the argument dead in its tracks. That logical fallacy is called the false dilemma. It is also known as the either-or fallacy. Lewis presents the case that the options he presents are the only options, when we know that there are other possibilities that could be considered. Two that come to my mind are A, that the Jesus story is totally made up in the same way that we now recognize other ancient religions and folk tales were probably made up, and also option B, which is that the Jesus story may have been based on one or more historical figures, but over time, aggrandizing started to happen, and what we ended up with was a superhuman divine being. Just like that popular fishing story where the fish gets bigger and bigger with each retelling. We know that these things can happen, and we can recount particular individuals from far more recent history who after their deaths have become larger than life. Pretty much every historian can agree, for example, that George Washington was a real person. Yet a number of myths and legends and folktales have sprung up about him that historians of early U.S. history still have to contend with in conversations with the public. The same thing is true in regards to the popular lawmen, outlaws, and gunslingers of the Old West, who were very real people, but not superhuman. Even within our own lifetimes, and within the 20th century, which some of us lived in, how many conspiracies have arisen around the deaths of people like President Kennedy, or even comically Elvis Presley, who some people still believed was alive and taken up into the sky by forces not of this world. But he occasionally still appears to people. Now, is it so hard to imagine that a similar thing could happen in Palestine during the 1st century CE with a populace that was far more credulous and had far less access to information? Just a thought. Answer the questions by questioning the answers, everyone. Later, Gators.